cancer clinic? I said hospital.
It's both. It's a hospital and a
How
treatment
receptive
facility.
is the medical staff to your holistic approach?
Well, again, this particular facility actually has naturopaths on staff, acupuncturists, they have Reiki, they have a very active mind-body department, nutritionists, so they're more receptive to utilizing those services to support conventional care. I work outside of the facility to go deeper and be able to do much, much more with people, because there's a standard of care in this country that is not the same as in other countries.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think the cancer treatment is better or worse inside the United States compared to other countries?
We do not have the best system at all. A lot of the people who were actually in this country had to leave it because, you know, I don't want to get into this whole political thing, but cancer is big business. Mm-hmm. And in our country, more so than others, big business has a big say in how we practice healthcare.
Well, I think and it's very true what you said. I think United States is rated 45th in 45th, and you know, there's 44 other countries with better healthcare than us, and I think we've dropped like 20 places in the last 15 or 20 years.
I think it's true in all types of medicine, except maybe emergency. Acute care, emergency, life-saving measures, I bet you we still rank at the top.
Well, and I do have a friend who's an emergency room physician, and I do know someone else who works in an ER room, and I'll tell you, they're being overworked right now.
Well, the system isn't being run right, but for an acute, like a major trauma, major heart problem, stroke, probably we do have the best care. But for all this other type of stuff, no. And I'll give you an example, like in Germany, just adding, besides conventional chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, just adding Iscador, which is an extract of mistletoe, they have 40% better results with their chemo. In Hungary, the mainstream oncologists use a fermented wheat product along with their chemo. And again, the cancer-related complications and malignancies and deaths, they drop from 42% to 16.7% just by adding one product. And that's not talking about whole programs.
Now, are any of your clients using mistletoe or that other herb?
Mistletoe in this country is actually illegal.
What?
Now, that's not to say that people don't do it, find ways to do it. That's the problem. You see, in this country, and you can find, by the way, I have it listed like in my resource manual, you can find some awesome clinics in the United States, but you have to look for them, and they have to practice very carefully, because physicians, in spite of great track records, if they're working outside of the standard of care, there's unfortunately many, many true stories of them being persecuted and prosecuted.
I'm just shocked that mistletoe is not sold.
The injections they're illegal.
It's injection.
I'm not sure if you can buy mistletoe, but the way that they use it in cancer care, and I mean, you can go back to the Druids' times. I mean, mistletoe has been used for the wasting disease long before we had the word cancer. And so it is with many other types of treatment. There's a protocol. There's a tea, an old Ojibwa formula that's been around since the 1930s. There's a group of herbs called Hoxie. We had 12 Hoxie clinics in the United States up through the mid-50s, and with totally documented results of non-toxically working with cancer. In the mid-1950s, it was declared illegal, so you have to go to Mexico to get Hoxie therapy. It's just an unfortunate state of affairs in this country, and thank God there are doctors in this country who you know, are so they stand by their convictions and they offer it anyway. But it's not certainly being endorsed and supported. And the research to get some of these, there are. You remember years ago, perhaps about Laetrile, when people were running over to Mexico, like in the 70s, because we heard apricot pits and something with them could fight cancer very effectively. And then, I don't know, it was a year or two later, it's all over the news. Oh, it was a hoax, it never worked. That's not true. It was just a propaganda so people wouldn't use the Laetrile. See, Laetrile and many other of these types of natural substances, again, with or without conventional, they're natural substances. They can't be patented, and so you cannot make a lot of money on them. And it's really sad. I mean, the more I went into the research, the more stunned I was. Cancer, I mean, chemotherapy is an $8.5 billion industry. And one of our largest research hospitals has people from the pharmaceutical company that is responsible, that sells half of that for some $4 billion. Their key executives are on the board of this major cancer research hospital. So there's just...
So they're controlling the research.
There's a whole conflict of interest, and if you can't patent some of these things, there was a product called Graviola. There is a product. It's a tree in South America, in the Amazon rainforest. Many, many studies on its natural and potent anti-cancer properties. There was several pharmaceutical companies were doing research on it. One in particular, I won't mention a name, but one in particular spent 6 years trying to find a way to make a synthetic, patentable version of it because they knew it worked. They were not successful. Sometimes you just can't compete with Mother Nature. We just don't have the knowledge.
Sure.
And so they dropped the whole project and shelved it, knowing that this non-toxic product works just as well.
Well, Susie, you have your master's degree in divinity. How important is faith in the recovery of cancer?
I think faith is important, but I think the spiritual piece is more than just about faith. It's about who am I as a spiritual being, and there are studies that show if you feel like a connection with something greater than yourself, your outcomes are different. If you believe in a loving presence, whatever you might call that, that's different. Your immune system responds differently than if you believe in say, a vengeful God, or you feel guilty or feel like God doesn't love you. And we all, I mean, everybody has heard about someone, somewhere, who had a miracle, a miraculous recovery. So we want to learn, what's that about? How can we harness that and up our chances?
Well, Dr. Andrew Weil actually wrote a book about that. He called it Spontaneous Healing.
Yeah.
Did you ever read it?
Yes, yes.
And if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the one key characteristic of each spontaneous healing was surrender.
Yeah, that's huge. Everything is tied in together.
Stop fighting, and then if we have thoughts in our mind that want to fight, or feelings in the body that want to fight, it activates the body's fight or flight system, and which just draws energy away from the immune system.
Right. You mentioned the Symingtons and the whole stress deal. When you're in stress, and you have to, I mean, whether stress allowed cancer to, get a greater foothold in your body, along with some other factors, genetics included, or not, having cancer is stressful. Mm-hmm. And if you don't deal with that, then your body stays in what you just said, this fight or flight response. And many people don't realize 14,000 chemical shifts when you're under stress. And it's a survival mode. And your body doesn't care about digesting food when you're in. If you've got a saber-toothed tiger on your tail, which is, or you don't have a tail, but they're chasing you, which is how your
It's an immediate life or death.
Yeah, that's how your system interprets stress. Even if your stress is, I'm going to be 10 minutes late to the office, or I have a cancer in my body. And when it's in that mode, it wants to run or fight, and it fuels the system to do it. It doesn't care that you're not digesting food properly, because if you won't need food if you don't stay alive. It doesn't care that you have an infection or a cancer in your body. It's going to borrow from the immune system to fuel that fight or flight response. So you're not in a healing mode. So whether it's faith-based or mind-body based, or it's usually they're really not that separate. It's where your accent points are,
yes,
based on people's beliefs and comfort levels. You want to shift the body into a healing mode, change the chemistry, change the immune function, and now through this epigenetics, we know change your genes, what's active and what's dormant. Add that to nourishing the body right, and detox. We didn't mention anything about that, but our environment is so filled with toxins.
Susie, I know we're just going to get through a fraction of what you have to offer. You know, I took care of my mom when she had cancer, and so I know how stressful cancer is on other members of the family who are trying to support the person with cancer. Do you address that issue in your program?
Yes, yes, and I will say that is one of the things that the Cancer Treatment Center does a great job about. So much support for caregivers and community for among caregivers and among people dealing with cancer.
How does that Cancer Treatment Center support the caregivers?
Well, many of the services that are offered to the patients are offered to their caregivers at no charge. Mind-body support, Reiki, massage, you know, a lot of those things. And because I saw how powerful it was, I've just created for my work outside of the hospital, group programs, so that people can feel really supported.
Do you ever believe that because of the support of the family, the love of the family, that people with cancer live longer or recover?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's another side of this, which I suspect you didn't deal with.
We got one minute to go. Go ahead.
All right. I was just going to say that sometimes families, in trying to keep that smile on their face for one another,
the false front,
both parties miss the opportunity for a very rich journey.
Well, you got about 10 seconds. Anything you want to add?
You're not a statistic. That if anybody listening here who has cancer, you're not a statistic. You're a person.
Great way to end it. Dave, I love you. For more information about Susi Roos, the Infinity Foundation, Inner Quest talk show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, we wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Thank you so much, Susi.
Thank you so much, Jay.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.